In today's video, I'm going to show you why the Minnesota Twins might be the scariest team that no one is talking about this coming season, and why they are now a legitimate postseason threat. As always, before we get started, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button, as that kind of support really helps us grow the channel. Unbeknownst to some baseball fans, the Twins have assembled a deep roster with a core of young, controllable, homegrown players. Their focus on player development has led to the team having many solid options around the field. They now have multiple options covering multiple positions. The team's depth has been the result of excellent drafting and development over the last few years by the front office, but they've also complemented their homegrown players with some high-impact players who are the right fit for the roster, locker room, and long-term planning. In short, the Twins front office has built a long-term competitor, and their window to compete is still ahead of them. In 2022, the Twins were plagued all season long by an absurd amount of injuries. As a result, the team suffered from a lack of depth and ran out of gas before the end of the season. And yet, despite missing a handful of key players throughout the season, they still managed to hold down first place in the AL Central for most of the year. So there's reason for hope that with the roster at full health, they might be able to secure a playoff spot this year and for several years to come. In order to accomplish that, changes were necessary this offseason. The first order of business was letting go of their athletic trainer and instead hiring Nick Paparesta, who was the head athletic trainer the past 12 years for the Oakland A's. And this move in particular might be the key to the Twins surprising a lot of teams going forward. In 2022, the Twins lost 2,363 cumulative days to injury. Meanwhile, by contrast, the A's only lost 1,156 days to injury. Last season, the Twins fell apart due to bullpen struggles, cold bats, and most of all, injuries. If Paparesta can shave the Twins' injury time in half like he did with the A's, he might be the most impactful signing of the offseason, even with Carlos Correa returning to the Twins. Looking ahead, the Twins can potentially be a dark horse team, if they don't repeat the same mistakes made last year. Without Correa, the team would still have had a lot of promise and potential. But with Correa, the road to success is now much shorter and more immediate. And thanks to Fangraphs, here's what their depth looks like. Their outfield is very deep. They have 11 outfielders at the time of filming, 13 if you also count Austin Martin and Kyle Farmer. While he's currently an infield prospect, Austin Martin might end up as an outfielder. Meanwhile, Twins president of baseball operations Derek Falvey recently told Aaron Gleeman of The Athletic that Kyle Farmer is also a viable option for them in the outfield. Some of these players will start the year in AAA, some might have to be traded, and playing time really depends on whether or not Max Kepler remains a Twin. Let's quickly review what outfield weapons the Twins have amassed. In center field, one of the team leaders, Byron Buxton, is signed long-term, and he's also a huge part of the team's identity and chemistry. He was an All-Star in 2022, he hit a go-ahead home run blast in the All-Star game off the Dodgers' Tony Gonsolin, and he finished the year with 28 home runs in only 92 games. And then there's also Mikey T, the newest addition to the Twins, Michael A. Taylor. Given his status as the #1 best defensive outfielder in all of baseball, he will play a lot, and likely at all three outfield positions. When Buxton needs a break, Taylor can take over in center field, while Buxton plays DH or has a day off for rest. Over the last 3 years, Mikey T has been the clear #1 outfielder with 36 defensive runs saved. Joey Gallo is also in the outfield. He signed a 1-year, $11 million deal with the Twins. Minnesota's hoping for a bounce-back year from Gallo, and he plays well in Minnesota. Over the last 3 years, Gallo ranks second overall amongst all outfielders with 32 defensive runs saved. Meanwhile, Buxton is tied for third with Kyle Tucker and Mookie Betts. So between Taylor, Gallo, and Buxton, the Twins have a shutdown defense. Not to be overlooked, Max Kepler still has a lot of upside and potential. His savant page is a red wave of what he's capable of. He's been one of the most unlucky hitters the last couple years, and he appears to have benefited from the juiced ball in 2019, the same year that a lot of other players made a name for themselves with career years, like Christian Yelich, Cody Bellinger, Gleyber Torres, Eugenio Suarez, Jorge Soler, Josh Bell, Matt Chapman, and others. All of these players, including Max Kepler, were listed in the top 20 overall for home runs in 2019, but not a single one of them has duplicated or come close to their 2019 production ever since. So we shouldn't look at Kepler's 2019 stats as being reflective of who he is or what he is likely to do going forward. As a result, trade rumors have followed Kepler over the last calendar year, and now that he's set to become a free agent after the season, if he's ever going to be moved, now is the time. He also has a $10 million club option for 2024, but for this year he'll be earning $8.5 million, so he's a very affordable option for other teams to look at. No matter what the outfield arrangement looks like, the Twins are likely to lead the majors in defensive runs saved this year and be a dominant team on defense even when Byron Buxton isn't playing in the field, and that says a lot. If anyone should miss any time, the Twins' backup options in the outfield include Nick Gordon, who's a valuable utility player who showed signs of breaking out in 2022. Trevor Larnach. He was a first-round pick in the 2018 draft, being selected 20th overall, and he also showed a lot of promise before a season-ending injury in 2022. As well as the Twins' backup center fielder Gilberto Celestino, homegrown slugger Matt Wallner, Alex Kirilloff, who will likely be the Twins' first baseman, Kyle Garlick, a platoon hitter versus lefties, who was outrighted earlier this offseason to the St. Paul Saints and will start the season at AAA, and Willie Castro, who can play infield, but he was signed to a minor league deal for more outfield depth. As for the infield, it's the same story, a lot of depth. At third base, Jose Miranda is the answer. He's underrated and in line for a breakout season this year. In my opinion, he's a young version of JD Martinez. As a hitter, the similarities are there. In most categories at the same age, Miranda is actually ahead of what JD Martinez did at the same time. And after a rough first month in the majors, Miranda settled down and mashed the rest of the season. In May, he had a line of 176, 208, and 324. Whereas, from June to the end of the season, his line was 286, 379, and 446. And that's just a tiny bit short of what Carlos Correa did as well. Overall, in the second half of 2022, Miranda's WRC Plus was 121. He had a 10.8% increase in his line drive rate, his walk rate went up, and his strikeouts went down. If you're going to bet on any player to have a big second year, Jose Miranda should be near the top of that list. In 2022, he played 77 games at first base and only 34 at third base. But that was then and this is now. A lot has changed since last year. Incumbent third baseman Gio Urshela was traded to the Angels at the start of the offseason, clearing the way for Miranda to return to his natural position at third base. Backing him up will be versatile utility infielder Kyle Farmer, and next in the pipeline might be either Royce Lewis or Brooks Lee. At shortstop, the Twins have one of the best in all of baseball, Carlos Correa. He won the Platinum Glove in 2021 with 20 defensive runs saved. He's been the top shortstop overall for the last 3 years. He's a 5 or 6 win player, has postseason success and accolades, and is still only 28 years old. Despite having a storied injury history since his debut, he has still managed to play in 89% of games during the past 3 seasons. In the second half of 2022, he hit .304, .380, and .486 with an amazing 149 WRC+, a .374 WOBA, and a 145 OPS+. So there's still plenty of reason to be optimistic about Carlos Correa. Over the course of a full season, Correa is a legit MVP candidate. Backing him up are Royce Lewis, who's out until the All-Star break, top 10 shortstop prospect according to MLB.com Brooks Lee, as well as Kyle Farmer and if necessary Nick Gordon. Over at second base, the Twins have power and speed with starter Jorge Polanco. Polanco has 2 years left on his contract, so naturally there have been some rumors that he might be moved soon. And here's why. The Twins are also loaded with second base prospects and depth. They signed Willie Castro to a minor league deal during the offseason, they already have Nick Gordon, and behind those two are the next wave. Top prospect Brooks Lee and on-base machine Edouard Julien. Whoever plays at the Keystone now or in the future, the Twins are in good hands. Then over at first base, the Twins will likely split the first half of the season between Alex Kirilloff, who's returning from a wrist injury, Joey Gallo, and possibly Jose Miranda, Kyle Farmer, or Max Kepler. There's also a chance that Edouard Julien might eventually get some at-bats there as well. Behind the plate, the Twins added free agent Christian Vazquez on a 3-year deal. This signing was one of the Twins' best offseason moves, as it solidifies a position of need. Vazquez has proven to be an exceptional game caller, defender, blocker, and he has a solid arm for throwing out base runners. In addition, he will have a big impact on the Twins' rotation, as he has earned a stellar reputation for doing so in Boston and then briefly with the Astros in 2022. And let's not forget, he has helped both the Red Sox and Astros win championships over the last 5 years, and he also caught a combined no-hitter in the 2022 World Series. Although Carlos Correa deservedly got all the attention this offseason, Christian Vazquez is the player who might dramatically improve the Twins' fortune in 2023 and beyond more than anyone else. He's exactly what Minnesota has needed. Prior to the offseason, my wish list for the Twins was to sign Carlos Correa, Carlos Rodon, Yuli Gurriel, and Christian Vazquez. The impact Vazquez brings to any team he's on is invaluable. Splitting time with Vazquez will be Ryan Jeffers, who battled injuries in 2022 and should rebound this year. Jeffers was originally intended to be the long-term catcher for the Twins, and he still might end up as their catcher for years to come, but combining Vasquez and Jeffers as a platoon means the Twins have 2 solid catchers and plenty of rest time for each. So it's the perfect scenario. All of this depth begs the question, who will be the Twins' designated hitter? Without an obvious DH on the roster, the Twins appear set to use the DH spot on a rotational basis. We can expect Byron Buxton to DH a lot this year to keep his legs healthy and fresh. Fangraphs currently projects that he will DH 30% of the time. With an athletic roster, the Twins won't be confined to plugging a one-dimensional or slow-moving hitter at DH, meaning it's possible for even more runs to be scored this year. Then let's talk about the pitching. This has been the Twins' Achilles heel over the past few years. To address their needs, the Twins acquired all of their rotation via trade over the last 2 years. The good news is that despite not having a bona fide ace, the Twins have ample depth with a handful of number 2 upside pitchers: Sonny Gray, Tyler Mahle, Joe Ryan, Pablo Lopez, and Kenta Maeda. Gray, Mahle, and Maeda are all set to become free agents after the season. For most teams, that would be a serious concern, but not for the Twins. They already have their next wave of pitchers set and ready for their turn in the rotation. This includes Bailey Ober, Josh Winder, Louis Varland, and Simeon Woods Richardson, all of whom received starts in 2022, and all of whom have the upside to be number 3 pitchers in the majors. In particular, Louis Varland is a sleeper pick for Rookie of the Year if he spends enough time in the majors. Varland has succeeded at every level. He's a local Minnesotan who grew up as a Twins fan, and he's shown that he's fearless on the mound. In his first major league game, his first strikeout was Aaron Judge. Keep a close eye on Varland this year. By 2024, he should be a key contributor in the Twins rotation. On top of that list of pitchers, the Twins also have 2022 second-round pick Connor Prelip, a nasty left-handed pitcher with number 1 upside. He was even projected as the number 1 overall pick in the 2022 draft until he injured his elbow in 2021, underwent Tommy John surgery, and missed the rest of the 2021 season for Alabama. When the second round of the 2022 draft rolled around and Prelip was still available, the Twins jumped at the opportunity to add a high-ceiling pitcher.
And this is probably the most talked about pitcher during that podcast. What do you know?
Number 1 overall pick this year if he hadn't had Tommy John surgery this year. Only threw 2 bullpens. I'll be honest, I thought he was going a lot closer to the Twins' first pick at 8 than I thought he was going at 40. This is a great talent value. The good thing about his Tommy John surgeries, he had it last year. He's throwing again. You can have him throw a little bit this summer, and he's full go going forward.
And before the draft, he worked out for a handful of teams and demonstrated that he had returned to full health. So being able to draft Prelip at all, never mind in the second round, is a huge win for the Twins. Again, prior to his injury, Prelip was considered one of the top pre-draft pitching prospects. His slider is devastating, he has great movement on his fastball, and if he develops as expected, the Twins will look like draft day geniuses by investing in Prelip. Since the Twins' rotation is all right-handed this year, just as it was last year, it's clear that there's a need for more left-handed pitching. Prelip is definitely part of that solution in the long term, but he's also just starting his journey in professional baseball and is still a couple years away from joining the big leagues. In the meantime, Brent Hedrick is someone to keep an eye on. He's made strides at every level, shown leadership beyond his years, and has demonstrated that he has an ace mentality. Every step along the way from college until now, Hedrick has been the top dog, and he's excelled. In terms of the confidence he shows on the mound, I get Chris Sale or Garrett Cole vibes from him. He's already on the Twins' 40-man roster, they went out of their way to protect him during the offseason, and he finished the 2022 season like a boss. In 2022, over 2 levels, and finishing at AA, he had a .332 ERA with 136 strikeouts in 108 1/3 innings, good enough for an 11.3 K per 9. Then during the AA playoffs, he held a 0 ERA over 12 innings with 19 strikeouts, 0 walks, and a 14.3 K per 9 as a starter. He was absolutely dominant. In his final game, with the team on the brink of elimination, he struck out 11 batters over 7 shutout innings with no walks and only 3 hits allowed. That kind of shutdown performance clearly convinced the Twins that Hedrick is a part of their plans for the near future. Whether he eventually joins the majors as a starting pitcher or takes the Chris Sale route of being a nasty reliever for his first season before sliding back to the rotation once a spot opens up, Hedrick has repeatedly shown that he will rise to the occasion and deliver. And best of all, he's a left-handed dominant starting pitcher. In terms of needs, it's hard to say that the rotation is still a need for the Twins. Currently, they could start the 2023 season with a 6-man rotation. Either way, they have enough depth to cover any setbacks or injuries along the way. But that said, you can never have enough starting pitching. So if the Twins do pursue any other trades, it makes a lot of sense if a starting pitcher or late-inning reliever is in their sights. And that brings us to the bullpen. The Twins are mostly rolling out the same bullpen as last year. Fireball throwing Yohan Duran was one of the top relievers in baseball all of last year as a rookie. An argument can even be made that he has the most dominant stuff amongst all relievers in the game. Last year in 67 2/3 innings, he dazzled with a 1.86 ERA. His four-seam fastball led the majors with an average speed of 100.8 miles per hour in 2022 and topped out at 103 miles per hour. Meanwhile, his splitter also led the majors in velocity, averaging 96.4 miles per hour. Those two pitches are close to unhittable. At Target Field in Minnesota, Duran was even more dominant with a 0.83 ERA despite a 351 BABIP. So is it possible that he gets even better in 2023? What we've learned about Yohan Duran is that he is one of the scariest pitchers for anyone in baseball to face. Whether he locks down the closer role or is used as a high-leverage reliever, it really doesn't matter. He's very special, and when he enters the game with a lead, it's game over. The rest of the Twins bullpen is as follows: Jorge Lopez, Griffin Jax, Caleb Thielbar, Emilio Pagan, Giovanni Moran, Jorge Alcala, and Trevor McGill. One thing all of these pitchers have in common is a high strikeout rate. According to Fangraphs, the Twins bullpen is projected to be 4th in all of baseball, trailing only the Braves, Mets, and Guardians. All in all, the Minnesota Twins are going to be a legitimate force to be reckoned with this year and beyond. It's still possible, and perhaps even probable, that more moves will be made before the 2023 season begins. This could include moving Max Kepler or even one of the 3 Twins starting pitchers who are set to become a free agent like Sonny Gray. Either way, they now have enough depth to consider more moves that will strengthen their roster even more. And after holding down first place in the AL Central for most of 2022, their focus now turns to staking their claim to the division for good and possibly having their best playoff run in years. Remarkable roster depth, effective drafting and development, and key free agent signings and trades have quietly built the Twins into the ultimate sleeper team that no one is paying attention to right now. And by the time they eventually do, it might be too late for other teams to catch up. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and hit the subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all of our other videos. And check out this other video that's on the screen right after this. Thanks for watching, and until next time, go Twins!